What? No tariffs. All right. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Today, this is the International Day of Reflection on the 1994 genocides against the Tutsi in Rwanda. This morning's event in the General Assembly to mark the day, the Secretary General said that this terrible period of Rwanda's history reminds us that no society is immune from hate and horror, and as we reflect on how these crimes came about, we must also reflect on resonance in our own times. The Secretary, excuse me, the Secretary General added that we must stem the tide of hate speech and stop the division and discontent that is mutating into violence. He also issued a message on the day in which he urged all states to deliver on their commitments made in the Global Digital Compact to tackle online falsehoods and hate, to comply with their obligations under international humanitarian and human rights law, and to become parties to the Convention on the Prevention of Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. All those documents were shared with you. This morning, the Security Council heard a briefing from Heads of Military Components Conference, which is currently taking place in New York. Jean-Pierre Lacroix, the head of our Peace Operations Department, said this annual gathering is an opportunity to reaffirm our shared commitment to peace and security through critical work of United Nations peacekeeping. He was also joined by two force commanders, Major General Aroldo Lazzaro, head of mission and force commander of our peacekeeping mission in Lebanon, UNIFIL, as well as Lieutenant General Ulises de Mesquita Gomes, the force commander of the UN peacekeeping force in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Mr. General Lazzaro was here in person. General Gomes was briefing via video. Turning to Israel and the occupied Palestinian territory, you will have seen a short while ago top officials from a number of UN agencies, notably OCHA, the World Food Program, UNRWA, UNICEF, and UNOPS, issued a statement a short while ago calling on the world to react with urgency to save Palestinians in Gaza. The UN officials noted that for over a month, no commercial or humanitarian supplies have entered Gaza, and more than 2.1 million people are trapped, bombed, and starved again. Food, medicine, fuel, shelter supplies are piling up at crossing points, and vital equipment is also stuck. Although the latest ceasefire allowed humanitarians to see that supplies reached every part of the Gaza Strip, they said that assertions that there is now enough food for all of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip are far from the reality on the ground, and commodities are running extremely low. That statement was shared with you. Meanwhile, our humanitarian colleagues tell us that across Gaza, Israeli attacks continue unabated, causing systematic, large-scale civilian casualties. People, including many children, are being killed, injured, and maimed for life. Survivors across Gaza are being displaced repeatedly and forced into an ever-shrinking space where their basic needs just cannot be met. Overall, we estimate that nearly 400,000 people have been displaced yet again since the breakdown of the ceasefire. That's 18% of all Palestinians in Gaza. And no arrangements to secure their safety and survival have been made, a responsibility that falls on Israel as the occupying power. Just yesterday, Palestinian rockets were fired into Israel, and yet another Israeli displacement order was issued, this time for over 3 square kilometers in the Deir al-Bala area. That will cover 9 neighborhoods with a combined area that is comparable to our Central Park here in New York. And I can tell you that several medical facilities were serving people inside and just outside that area. WHO says there is severe shortage in medical equipment, as well as ultrasound machines, as well as oxygen pumps, and in medicines, along with 180,000 doses of routine childhood vaccines in Gaza. We continue to distribute what remains inside Gaza to those most in need, but we cannot sustain this for much longer, and the crossings, unless the crossings are reopened immediately for humanitarian goods and equipment. And that will be essential to the survival of people in Gaza. OCHA says all attempts to pick up commodities that had been brought in and dropped at the crossings have been denied. OCHA reminds us that coordination with Israeli authorities is required for any humanitarian organization to access vast areas of the Gaza Strip, and that most attempts to coordinate these movements result in access being denied. Just yesterday, Israeli authorities denied 5 of 9 attempts to coordinate access by UN workers. OCHA says that while staff rotations are often facilitated, aid delivery is routinely blocked. 18 months since the October 7th terror attacks, we are as appalled as we were then by those horrific actions. Dozens of hostages remain in captivity with no opportunity for visits and extremely concerning reports on mistreatment. We reiterate again that all hostages must be released unconditionally and immediately, and until then they must be treated humanely, and Hamas must allow the International Committee of the Red Cross to visit them. Just to note, programming note that tomorrow around noon, the Secretary General will be at the stakeout to deliver a statement on the situation in Gaza. We'll confirm that with you a little bit later today. Turning to Lebanon, our UNIFIL colleagues have recorded over the past day several incidents of the Israeli Defense Forces military activity, including small arms fire, airstrikes, and violations of Lebanese airspace, all of that in violation of Security Council Resolution 1701. One such airstrike impacted Nakora, which is, close to UNIFIL's headquarters. That took place last night. We note media reports of 2 fatalities from Israeli airstrikes near Zipkin in southern Lebanon on April 6th, and 2 people injured in a strike near Hudaysa overnight. UNIFIL peacekeepers discovered several caches of unauthorized weapons, including mortar shells, over the weekend. The Lebanese army, meanwhile, continued its patrols as clearance of unexploded ordnance in southern Lebanon. We continue to urge everyone to fully uphold their obligations under Security Council Resolution 1701 and refrain from any action that may jeopardize the cessation of hostilities. Moving to Syria, the UN Special Envoy for Syria, Geir Pedersen, in a statement issued today, said he appreciated the extensive discussions in Damascus he held with Mr. Ahmed al-Shara, which took place on Sunday and focused on all aspects of ongoing political transitions in Syria. The UN Special Envoy discussed with Mr. al-Shara the importance of transparent framework for the process of selecting and electing an interim People's Assembly and at all other subsequent political transition steps. Sanctions easing needs to continue and that the Syrian people need an economic future, Mr. Pedersen stressed. Mr. Pedersen also reiterated his condemnation of Israel's repeated attacks and intervention in Syria and appreciated the commitment of the Syrian interim authorities to respecting the agreements with Israel. Turning to Yemen, the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs warns that conditions in Yemen remain incredibly dire, and after more than a decade of crisis and conflict, more than 19 million human beings in Yemen still need essential assistance, including food, nutrition, healthcare, and shelter, as well as clean water. Nearly half of the population is acutely hungry, and many don't have access to enough clean water. Women and children continue to bear the brunt of the crisis. While needs are increasing, funding is shrinking. This year's humanitarian appeal for Yemen, which requires $2.5 billion United States dollars, is less than 7% funded, with only $173 million in the bank. Aid workers are also facing a highly challenging operating environment, ranging from insecurity and detention to bureaucratic impediments and attempted interference. Last year, our humanitarian partners reached 8 million people of the most vulnerable Yemenis with food, clean water, medicine, and other aid. There are now more people in need and fewer partners on the ground to reach them, so the need for funding and access is that much greater. And a note for you on Ukraine. I can tell you that we are deeply alarmed by the continued Russian bombardment of Ukrainian cities, including the recent strikes in Kharkiv, Kherson, Dnipro, as well as last week's deadly attack in Kryvyi Rih. We recall that directing attacks against civilians and civilian objects is prohibited under international humanitarian law, and any such attacks, wherever they occur, must end immediately. We reiterate the Secretary General's call for a durable ceasefire and our support for meaningful efforts toward a just, lasting, and comprehensive peace that fully upholds Ukraine's sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity in line with the UN Charter, international law, and relevant United Nations resolution. Immediately following the attack in Kryvyi and complementing the efforts of local first responders, we, along with our humanitarian partners, as well as Ukrainian Red Cross, provided first aid and psychological support, and we and our partners also assisted with medical evacuation, delivered emergency surgical supplies to local hospitals, organized hot meals, and distributed other materials. Update on Julie Bishop, our special envoy for Myanmar. Julie Bishop is currently visiting Malaysia today and met with government interlocutors there, including the special envoy of ASEAN chair on Myanmar, Othman Hashim. Malaysia, as the 2025 ASEAN chair, is a key partner of the UN's efforts to support a Myanmar-led political solution to the crisis and to respond to humanitarian needs following the March 28th earthquake. We expect Ms. Bishop to travel to Myanmar tomorrow. And on the ground, we estimate that more than 17 million people are living in areas impacted by the two earthquakes that hit the country on March 28th. Over 9.1 million of these people live in the hardest hit areas. Communities continue to grapple with widespread destruction of homes, health facilities, critical infrastructure, as well as prolonged power and water outages. Telecommunications are severely limited and transport routes have been damaged or obstructed. Emergency assistance, including food, has been provided to nearly more than 70,000 impacted people in the Mandalay region, Naypyidaw Territory, Saigon region, and northern Shan State. Drinking water has been provided to over 40,000 and hygiene kits distributed to more than 100,000 people. We and our partners have reached more than 165,000 people with essential relief assistance. This includes distribution of shelter materials, safe water solutions, hygiene kits, and food, and mobile medical teams are being deployed. As you know, Tom Fletcher was there over the weekend. He's now on his way back here. And the United Nations team in Afghanistan today urged the international donor community to maintain critical support for the people of Afghanistan. With 22.9 million men, women, and children in need of assistance this year, the country is today the world's second largest humanitarian crisis. The appeal for Afghanistan comes ahead of meetings of Afghanistan Coordination Group that will start tomorrow in Istanbul, in Turkey. The group gathers member states, donor representatives, international finance institutions, and the UN Assistance Mission in Afghanistan. Indrika Ratwate, the Deputy Special Representative for the Secretary General in Afghanistan, will be representing the mission. Turning to Sudan, we are concerned about the welfare of civilians fleeing insecurity in Blue Nile State in the southeast of the country, as well as the lack of access for humanitarians to reach them. Local authorities estimate that 4,000 people displaced from Ulu and other towns in Bao locality have been moving northeast towards the state capital of Damizin, which is about 230 kilometers away. So far, some 600 people have arrived and are sheltering at displacement sites. Ongoing insecurity and bureaucratic constraints have prevented humanitarian partners from reaching impacted areas. We call again for the safe, sustained, and unhindered humanitarian access to all people in need. New arrivals from South Sudan have also been reported in other parts of Blue State in recent weeks, demonstrating the growing complexity of the situation in the region. And turning to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, our humanitarian colleagues tell us that in North Kivu, unexploded ordnances in residential areas of Walikale Center is posing lethal risk to residents, including people who were formerly displaced who are now returning to their homes. Local civil society groups are urgently warning against premature returns before demining operations have been completed. Our humanitarian partners are also reporting similar concerns in South Kivu, where large quantities of unexploded ordnances remain in Bukavu, the provincial capital, as well as in Kalehe territory, and that is, of course, threatening local and displaced communities, but also aid workers as they attempt to reach people in need. And moving closer here to Haiti, human rights colleagues in Haiti and the UN mission there, BNU, have published a new report detailing the impact of the violence, and it makes for grim reading. They say that between January 1st and March 27th of this year, at least 1,518 people were killed and 572 injured in Haiti due to attacks by gangs, operations by security forces, as well as acts of violence perpetrated by self-defense groups and unorganized members of the population. The new report also focuses on repeated attacks in the rural areas of Kenskov and in some neighborhoods of Carrefour, two communities in the metropolitan area of Port-au-Prince. They say that those have resulted in serious human rights abuses. According to our colleagues, gang members displayed extreme brutality, aiming to instill fear under the population. As an example, they've executed men, women, and children inside their own homes, shot others on the roads and paths as they tried to flee the violence. That includes an infant, according to our colleagues. Sexual violence was also committed against at least 7 women and young girls during the planning and execution of those attacks by gang members. The gangs also ransacked several homes and set fire to more than 190 of them. As we've mentioned, these attacks forced more than 3,000 people to flee their localities. And just lastly, today is also International World Health Day. Kicks off today with a year-long campaign on maternal and newborn health. The campaign aims to urge government and the health communities to ramp up efforts to end preventable maternal and newborn deaths. And just to note that the UN reports trends in maternal mortality was released today by our colleagues at UNFPA, with data highlighting how dangerous pregnancy still is in much of the world. Gabriel, then Pam, then Deji. I'm ready. Sorry, I was getting ready to answer you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Steph. Can you confirm Associated Press report that the Trump administration has notified the WFP and some other UN partners that it has terminated some of its last remaining contracts?
We're trying to get details on that. We've seen the AP report. We're trying to get details here. I would also encourage you to reach out to WFP.
Okay. Moving on from that one, on Gaza, has the SG seen the video that was leaked on late Friday of the emergency workers that were killed?
Yeah, he's very much aware of the video, and I think, like anyone who has seen it, is just shocked by those images.
And would he support an independent commission of inquiry?
As he's called for, is independent, transparent, and effective investigation into what happened.
Do you think that at this point, the Secretary, I'll rephrase that, does the Secretary General have confidence that what the IDF says is accurate, or given the fact that they have clearly lied in this instance that involves one of your employees, the credibility of the IDF is what for the SG now?
I think in this case it was clear that when presented with facts on video, they changed their narrative. Pam.
Thanks, Steph. A follow-up to Gabe's first question. There were reports on the weekend that the DOJ, the U.S., is looking to evaluate cuts to the UN's Department of Global Communications.
I'm not.
Did you get anything from them?
From who?
From the U.S. on.
No, I mean there is no. We've not received any communications from the U.S. mission or from the Department of Government Efficiency in Washington on the Department of Global Communications.
Okay, and on these other agencies, are they letting you know what's under evaluation? WFP, UNICEF,
yeah, I mean, as I said,
UNRWA?
I just saw the AP story not long ago. I've asked our humanitarian colleagues to check it. I would also encourage you to check with the agencies directly.
All right, and on a totally separate front, just following up on the Black Sea grain, anything to report?
No.
Thank you.
Deji, then Sinan.
Yep. First, there's reports that today polio vaccine has been prevented to enter Gaza.
Well, I mean, there's been no vaccine, no food, no fuel, no supplies have gone in at all for over a month. And I'm not aware of any exception for polio vaccines. Okay. Sinan.
Thank you, Monsieur. I have a question on Syria. Different sources are suggesting that the United States downgraded the legal status of Syrian mission to United Nations, and that indicating the USA no longer recognizes Syrian government. So the question is that right? Do you have any information on that?
Yes. So first of all, I think a couple of points, because we've seen those reports. A couple of points need to be clear. The status of the Syrian Arab Republic in the United Nations remains unchanged. It continues to be a member state of the United Nations. The issue of membership is guided by the charter, and the issue of recognition is one of governments. The decision made by the host country to change the visas for members of the permanent mission of the Syrian Arab Republic to the UN does not impact Syria's standing, the Syrian Arab Republic's standing within the UN. It does not affect the participation of permanent members within the work of the UN. They are accredited to the United Nations, and they must be continued to allow to do their work and their functions in connection with their work with the UN.
I have one more, if you don't mind. According to some news stories, Iran's armed forces have been placed on high alert by order of Supreme Leader of Ayatollah. And I mean, in response to USA President Donald Trump's recent threats against Tehran. So I wonder, I mean, this looks like a sharp escalation. How concerned is Secretary General about this escalation?
We're obviously concerned by the growing tensions in the Gulf, the growing tensions between the U.S. And Iran. We were also, I think, we reacted positively to the news that there were the possibility of indirect talks through third party. We hope that opportunity, using another country as an intermediary, would be used as a way to lower tensions. Stefano, and then we'll go to the screen.
Thank you, Stefan. With whom the Secretary General talks or reach with the U.S. government when he wants to, the moment when he, for example, if he wants to indirectly put pressure on the Israeli government on Gaza situation, the helps and everything. Usually we know that the UN is always in contact with the US because the US has leverage on the Israeli government. So in the last days, did this Guterres attempt to have a contact with the Trump administration, and with whom in particular?
States remains a permanent mission here in New York. I can tell you that our colleagues on the ground remain in constant contact with their Israeli counterparts to push through privately what we keep saying publicly. And they're, of course, also in touch with the diplomatic community in the Middle East.
Just a quick follow-up, because we know that there is not the ambassador, Stephanie didn't come anymore. So the point is, at the moment, the U.S. mission is now doesn't have the head of the mission. So,
well, I mean, Stefano, that's your analysis. The U.S. mission has a chargé d'affaires, has a person who leads that mission. She remains our point of contact. Thank you. Let's go to the screen. I'll come back to you, Pam.
Yes, Steph. Hello?
Go ahead.
Can you hear me? Okay. I have a question on the Syrian diplomat status, but you answered that. I have a few other questions. First, there is a child in the village of Tormus Hayya near Ramallah was shot and killed by settlers. His name is Ammar Muhammad Saada Rabia. The Israeli did not allow ambulances to reach him until, and he kept bleeding until he died. He's also an American citizen. Do you have any comment on that?
I haven't seen that particular case. I haven't seen that particular case, but I can tell you that we are and have been very vocal in expressing our extreme worry at the deteriorating situation in the West Bank, and notably at the violence by settlers, which all too often appears to go unchecked. Your other question.
Yes, Steph, Hungary was requested by ICC to arrest a war criminal. They did not abide by that. Do you have any comment on that?
That is a question that needs to be dealt with between the court and Hungary, between the states, the Assembly of States parties, and Hungary. Our position on the ICC remains the same. Thank you. Pam.
What?
Pam, go ahead.
Thank you. Is there someone that you know so far that will brief on Ukraine tomorrow? I mean, someone, the Secretariat, there's a Ukraine meeting called?
I don't know. We'll find out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you all. If the SG will likely, as I said, brief around noon. Inshallah, he will take some questions, which means I will not brief. Thank you. And neither will Sharon.